What is happening at JGame Dude here, and Microsoft lays off 650 more employees after letting go of an eye-watering 1,900 earlier on this very year. Now, before we get into too many details, just wanted to say, hey, if you like the content that I make, feel free to hit the like, subscribe to the channel, because that all sends happy signals to YouTube to say, hey, please recommend this video and this content of this channel to other people. So that would certainly be very much appreciated. If you want to toss a few bucks my way to help support the channel, because I'm definitely not monetized in any way, you can absolutely do that through the Patreon link in the description below. It only really costs $1 if you feel like doing it. And that being said, let's jump into Microsoft laying off 650 employees. So it's worth pointing out that Microsoft has never truly described why, in any level of specificity, why they've been letting people go. This time around though, it's actually been made abundantly clear. What this could be is specifically in relation to the I was gonna missay it, but the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So let's just kind of jump into this Tom Warren article on The Verge, or Verge article by Tom Warren. Microsoft is laying off around 650 employees in its gaming division today. The latest cuts come months after Microsoft laid off 1,900 Activision Blizzard and Xbox employees, and after the closure of several game studios, and this is important to consider, including Redfall developer Arcane Austin, and of course I'm going to editorialize a little bit here, but also the developers of Hi-Fi Rush, Tango Gameworks, which, keeping in mind, Tango did then get bought up by Krafton, and 50% of the staff that used to work there do have their jobs back. So if nothing else, at least there has been something that's been salvaged ultimately from just the pain and suffering that Xbox has caused, apart from letting people go. Now, while I do say that Redfall developer Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, along with 2 other studios, were shut down, they aren't necessarily part of the 1,900, because the 1,900 was actually from earlier on in the year. So I'm actually interested as to why it's been bumped all together, because the 1,900 loss was in Jan, if not Feb of this year, and then in April or Mayish is when we saw the closure of 4 studios. But yeah, Xbox chief Phil Spencer announced the layoffs 2 employees in an internal memo this morning, seen by The Verge. The cuts are related to the Activision Blizzard deal, and Spencer makes it clear in his email that no games, devices, or experiences are being cancelled, and no studios are being closed as part of layoffs today. And it's all a part of the post-acquisition team restructuring themselves to allow for people from Activision Blizzard to then be a part of Microsoft Gaming. And this term specifically here is what hits the hardest, because people had always thought of Xbox as a part of Microsoft that had its own identity, that has its own area of expertise, something that Microsoft could never truly begin to understand with it. That being said, however, with this whole Activision Blizzard acquisition, Microsoft has slowly encroached on Xbox as oh no, we are the ones that are in charge, not you guys. So even though Phil does have to report to Satya Nadella, ultimately, it's clear that Microsoft is very much not letting Xbox run as autonomously as it used to, and is in fact now exuding more pressure for them to pay back the money that Daddy Microsoft gave Xbox to pay for Activision Blizzard. And that's insane to think about, considering that it says Microsoft, but technically Xbox, wherever you want to put it, completed the 68.7, or as I like to call it, the very nice $69 billion acquisition in October last year. And that is insane to think about, because again, the purchase of I feel like Activision Blizzard should never have been purchased to begin with, but we did get at least some positives out of it. For example, Toys for Bob splitting from Activision Blizzard entirely in order to be able to be an independent developer itself, and allowing for a decent number of QA developers to be able to go and unionize effectively, I think is definitely the way of putting it, especially with places like Raven and stuff like that. Now, with that being said, this is the actual email itself that was actually sent to the guys at Microsoft Gaming, Xbox. For the past year, our goals have been to minimize disruption while welcoming new teams and enabling them to do their best work. As part of aligning our post-acquisition team structure and managing our business, we've made the decision to eliminate approximately 650 roles across Microsoft Gaming, mostly corporate and supporting functions, to organize our business for long-term success. I don't think letting large groups of people go is kind of a positive thing in any way, shape, or form, so I guess there's that element to it as well. Difficult news to hear. In the US, supporting with exit packages and things along those lines. With these changes, our corporate and supporting teams and resources are aligned for sustainable future growth. And I suppose that's always been the most painful thing about gaming, especially nowadays, is the fact that it's always about growth. It's always about how much more money you can make from the previous year, and eventually, even though slowly every single year the amount of money you make goes up, slowly just doesn't cut it. It needs to be a significant or a substantial increase that can be described in a percentage. If that isn't the case, then it's clear that they're not making enough money in order to be able to continuously sustain the staff, the games, the IP, and everything else in between in order to please stakeholders. And even to this day, I still think that publicly traded companies are the least trustworthy companies in all of gaming, because they are always at the mercy of stakeholders ultimately at the end of the day. And so companies feel like they have to make more and more money, and ultimately have to chase some sort of gold rush in order to make said insane amount of money. And I feel like Xbox has, while they've done some positive things, they've done far more negative things to the industry as a whole that is completely unforgivable, and I feel like they really should just have never ever done to begin with, if I'm being completely honest. Stuff like paying for access to online with Xbox and Xbox 360, even though the PS3 did have online, but it didn't ask you to pay to play online. Now it does with the release of the PS4 onwards. Xbox had it from the beginning of the original Xbox, for example. The whole shift on online only and DRM on console, specifically with what happened with the Xbox One, and now that has become significantly more normalized with the later part of the PS4 generation going into PS5 and the Xbox Series, where in order to have a primary console, you can only have one single primary console, so you can't share the console with other people like you can with your PS3, where you can have up to 2 or 3 primary PS3s and not just a single one. So the way profiles work is you could actually share your library of games with other people if they can log in as you and things like that. So there are a number of things that I feel like Xbox has done incredibly poorly and has led to a negative effect on the industry as a whole. And the push for digital was certainly one of those things, because they certainly already started doing that. But even so, it was already in the cards for PlayStation to do the exact same thing, with the announcement of the PS5 Pro being a digital-only console that supports the addition of a disc drive if necessary, costing you upwards of at least $80 more on top of the base price of the product. So, yeah. That is kind of where we're at. This is a sucky situation. No one should ever have to lose their jobs in any case or circumstance that is outside of their own control. If people deserve to lose their jobs, it's because they did a bad job ultimately at the end of the day, and that they deserve it. This is just unfortunate. I could never imagine living in the US, let alone working for a company in the US, because I feel like my existence is just absolute meaninglessness in every sense of the word, given that there's no such thing as worker rights in the US as a whole. That being said, however, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you'd like to, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 300 subs by the end of the year. And with all of that being said and done, I do have my Patreon link in the description below. If you want to toss a few bucks my way, you can absolutely do that. And I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.